all about writing with Ben and Sara.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 59, part 10 on our series on getting started. I am Sara, here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher.
And I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sara, who is an award-winning best-selling author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter. And today we are super excited to have with us Sandra Murphy, and she's going to talk all about audiobooks. This is a huge topic, which has really been exciting over the last few years, and we can't believe it's taken us this long to have you on board. So welcome, Sandra. Great to have you here.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, tell us, give us your background. I know you personally, and we've worked together, but I want everyone to know how amazing you are. So give us your background, please. Because I'm like, she does audiobooks, but you're an actor.
I am an actor. Yes,
Yeah.
I am. So yeah, audiobooks is acting. So you can be acting on the stage, you can act on screen, and you can act with voiceover and do audiobooks. So I'm an actor by trade. I do other types of acting work, but I really love voiceover because I get to be all the characters and love storytelling. I have degrees in English communication and theater. So when I came to audiobooks, it was kind of a natural fit because I already really liked all of the things that you need to do to communicate and storytell and love a beautifully crafted sentence. All of those things. I have narrated over 100 audiobooks. We're like in the 100 teens, I think, right now. Love mysteries, love historical fiction. I've done a variety of romance, nonfiction. So I love words.
Now, for those who perhaps have never listened to an audiobook before, you say how you do all the characters when you're narrating. So I just want to clarify for everyone, an audiobook is different from like a radio play, right? Like it is just one voice in an audiobook, correct?
Traditionally, when you think of them, they are. However, we now have dual and duet narrations, so you find these a lot in the romance genre, and we have multicast. So I've been in a multicast production where I just play a small handful of characters.
Oh, wow.
And we met on Zoom, and so there's one person doing the narration, and there's one person doing the main characters, but you might have a few more. And so there was a cast of like 10 of us doing this multicast audiobook.
How interesting.
Yeah.
I used to think that those were officially teleplays. That's no longer the case. I thought they were completely separate, like artistic pieces.
I don't know about teleplays. I know about multicast audiobooks, but I've only done one. I'd rather do the entire book. So
fair enough.
So
you do a good job.
Idea which is more common is to have just one
yes,
narrator.
a single narrator. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, well, that sounds great. I mean, I love the idea of having multiple voices in there. Particularly, I can get for romance. I totally get why you would want that. Have the male voice and the female voice. Yeah, that's wow. I'm stunned. Forgive me, everyone. I'm going to sit here and ponder that for a second.
Well, when I listen to him, I prefer a single narrator because I think it tells the story. I like just the continuity in storytelling from one person instead of changing it up. But that's just my personal preference.
Yeah, I suppose it's more like how you would read it. It's just sort of one medium coming at you the whole time. Huh.
Which is the traditional way of audiobooks, correct?
Right.
Like for people who have never even contemplating having their books put into an audiobook, the traditional way is to just have one voice.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's say there was one of our listeners out there is thinking about having their book made into an audiobook. Can you tell us all about the process? How does it work? How does one go about making an audiobook?
Oh, wait, I can answer this. You find Sandra in an elevator in Denver, and you happen to be wearing this same colored dress, and you go for breakfast, and then you hire her for all your books? Is that not how this goes?
That's how it goes. Yeah, that was a great story.
Anyway, No, it's not. And it's not how it goes. Tell us how it goes.
How it traditionally goes, Sarah, just because you don't know.
I
So
have no idea.
a lot depends is if you're traditionally published versus self-published. So
For sure.
traditionally published, either the publisher will do the audiobook or they'll hand it off to a third-party producer, and then choices are made at that point. Sometimes the author gets to know a little bit more about the narrator or get to choose. Sometimes they don't. So it depends
Mhm.
upon the publishing house and where that ends up. For self-published, there's a whole journey that can take place. I can just recommend to authors know your contracts. If you're getting traditionally published or you're working with a smaller publisher, know if you have retained the rights to your audiobook or if you've sold the rights, because they mean a lot.
And
Absolutely.
that was our situation. I mean, I had the audio rights, even though I was traditionally published, and it made all the difference. But I think, um, I think people don't realize that this is even an avenue. There's so many hybrid and smaller presses out there that they don't even realize that they have the option to build their own audiobook, and it's lucrative. You know,
Yes.
it
And
really is.
some people are making, not all, because there's some authors who are putting a lot of time, attention, and love into their audiobook marketing efforts are making a lot of money off of their audiobooks. Because now it's not just the Audible platform. People are consuming audiobooks on a variety of platforms like Spotify and let's see, Kobo and Libby and Overdrive. There's so many different platforms where your audiobook can be. So, it's definitely worth looking at if you're an author. And I think
Yeah.
I've skipped your question about how to do it,
Just get
but I
to
can circle back to that.
eventually, yeah.
So there's a variety of ways you can go on to. I think the largest platform left is ACX, which is the Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, where you can get your audiobook published there. They have a whole way you can go on and step by step go through that process. You can work with a smaller publishing house. So if you're in romance and you want duet or dual narration, if you want a multicast, a smaller publishing house is really probably a good thing to think about. You can do it yourself. Um, that involves a lot of education on your end to find the software and get recording space and figure out the editing and upload your files, but that is something that you can do. And you can do AI narration. So you can, with a click of a button, you can have your book as an audiobook.
Yeah, but does it sound like a robot? I feel like it would sound like a robot. At least, and maybe I'm like, woohoo, my books have like crazy Lakota and Polish words, so forget it, AI. But like for the average person, does it not still sound like a robot if they're doing it?
The quality of AI narration continues to improve, but I've listened to a sample of, so you can decide as a narrator whether you want you to get a virtual voice of your voice or whether you don't. And so one narrator that I know of has decided to get a virtual voice of his voice, and he did the same script with his virtual voice versus his voice to show you the difference. And there's just a level of authenticity that comes from a human that you're never going to get from AI, because I read subtext. To me, my job is reading the words that are not on the page. Okay, they said this, but how did they feel about that? What kind of environment did they just come out of? What emotions are at play? AI can't do that. AI can say the words on the page, but AI cannot read subtext. I would hate to listen to, I would hate it. I don't think I ever can make myself do it. Listen to like a romance scene narrated by AI. They don't have access to those emotions, or something completely, utterly tragic. I'm thinking, Sarah, of one of the scenes from your book when they find this house just destroyed. Like, that is utterly, as a human, just looking at it, there's so many different emotions going through you. The narrator can convey at least some of them. AI can't do any of that. So I will always have a job.
Yeah.
Good.
We are 100% behind that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, it's true. Like, I'm gonna ask the same question again because I think it's really important, just for aspiring authors out there to sort of learn about how to approach audiobooks because it is a different medium from writing. Like ebooks, for example, it's still words, right? It's just a matter of changing the words from one format to another. An audiobook is a totally new creation that has to be done. And I can see how it would be maybe intimidating for authors who have never done it before. And you're right. If you're traditionally published, well, my publisher will take care of that, and it'll be fine. But I'm thinking more for self-published authors or for authors who still have their audiobook rights. You mentioned, I'm sorry, what was the name of the company again? The
ACX.
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 Yes,
Thank
for
you.
the
Yeah,
Amazon. Yeah.
yeah. We'll say that a few times just so people get it. ACX. I don't know if you've ever gone through the process from the author side. Like, do you know, is it a user-friendly process, or is it something that authors really need to know something about?
I can
It
speak
is.
to this. It is
Oh, yeah,
easy.
great.
Yeah. No, I mean, Sandra can too. I don't know if you've ever uploaded for people, but as an author, it's extremely user friendly. So I can vouch for that. It's very uh you see it and it makes sense. And if you're even marginally tech savvy, you can get your audiobook up. But made only possible and easy and stress-free if you have someone like Sandra who has, who knows what they're doing. They're recording in the right space. They have everything cut. They know the decibels. Don't you work with like an editor? Like, I mean, everything is already done. So other than you listening to make sure it sounds right ahead of time, like you can just upload the files and done and dusted. But
Okay,
you
so this
have to have a professional
right.
to do your legwork on the front end. And I
So this
think
is a good question. With ACX, I don't go to ACX to find Sandra. That's not how it
You
works.
can actually.
Oh, okay, okay, yes.
So,
See?
so as a self-published author, that's a way you can go. You can go onto ACX. The only thing you have to use the platform is your book has to be up on Amazon. So that's the only thing you have to have. But you can go on there and list your book for auditions. You can get a variety of different auditions. There are different contract types that you need to consider. A lot boils down to whether you want your book narrowly distributed or wide. So narrow, think KDP. Wide is everywhere, includes the library, includes all the different platforms where people are listening to audiobooks. So that's a big consideration when you're choosing your contract type on ACX.
Right. Okay. So then as a narrator who sort of contracts on the other side, do you then get do you log in and just look at what contracts are available that you can bid on, or like how does the author find the narrators?
So narrators are on there, and yes, they're looking for auditions, and you'll find people who are going on to ACX and auditioning. Here's another thing you can do. If you are an avid audiobook listener, you can reach out to your favorite narrator and say, hey, I have an audiobook. Would you consider it? Who knows? They might. It might, depend on scheduling, but you can do that. You can go on to ACX, we all have profiles on ACX, and you can listen to people's samples. And then you can be approached that way. I've had people approach me that way. Hey, I listened to your sample. I think you'd be a great fit for the book. So there are a variety of different ways. It's not just that. If you have a favorite narrator, or you can go on and listen to samples and cherry pick people to audition for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the contracts too, Sandra? Because I know you're coming in from the side of the artist, as it will, but like, you said there's two types of contracts. Are there pros and cons to those when you're looking at publishing an audiobook? Do you want to go wide? Do you want to go narrow? Is there a reason to do one versus the other? Can you give us your opinion, of course, but also for you as an artist, what you think it makes the most sense for both you as the audiobook artist and for the author too.
Yes, I can cover all this. We're diving in now.
Yeah.
So, deep dive. So what's interesting is I'm a member of the Audiobook Publishers Association, and they do market research every year. And there was a bit of research that came out of a fact that came out of the research this year. The most important factor in someone selecting your audiobook to purchase is that it's available on the platform that they are listening on. That is more important than the narrator. It's more important than the author. It's more important than the price. So wide distribution is really important, and this was a new bit of data that we got this year. So wanted to say that first. When you go onto ACX, you can do a royalty share model where you don't have any money out of pocket, and the audiobook narrator will produce your audiobook and give it to you, and then you're both paid with how the book sells. So I've had books that have sold 5 copies. I have books that have sold 5,000 copies. It's very different, so don't be surprised if you want to go this way, if your narrator asks you about a marketing plan. Because if I'm going to spend a lot of time putting this, creating this book, I want to know that I'm going to make the money on the back end. So that's royalty share, and that's narrow distribution. So when I talk about narrow, that's Audible, Amazon, iTunes. That's it. So you can do another kind of hybrid is royalty share plus, and that's a small stipend. Narrators think of compensation in per finished hour. So if your book is 10 hours long, I'm thinking, how much am I making for each of those 10 hours? So that's because we have to proof. You have to proof your written. We have to proof our audio. We have to make sure it's, we didn't drop a word, add a word, any of that. We have to make sure it's up to specs. A lot of times we'll hire that out to an editor. So that's an out-of-pocket expense. So if I'm doing royalty share, if it's royalty share plus, and then you have the expense for the editing, that makes it more attractive. What that gets you as an author is a better quality narrator. That's royalty share. We're going to go over to pay per finished hour now. So there are 2 different types of, so you payment per finished hour. So I think the average I looked up was SAG. So it's hard to say, this is the rate when there are a variety of rates and we're all independent contractors. But the average SAG rate is $325 per finished hour, and that includes mastering and editing and proofing. So that's kind of the SAG rate for what you'd pay for an audiobook. Now you can still stay narrow and pay per finished hour, and then you'll get more money if you stay on Audible, and that's only where your book can be found. You'll make less money from Audible if you go wide. But then if you go wide, you can get it everywhere where audiobooks, audiobook listeners listen. Audible isn't the only one in the game anymore. There's so many other distribution channels and so many ways that people are listening to audio. I think that's what I recommend, because once an audiobook listener finds you, they can listen to, your entire series. If they find that book, and then they can listen to different series you've done. But it's getting them that first one, and I think wide serves you as the author.
And wide, especially if you've already paid your audiobook, talent their due, then there's less pressure to try and also then market on the back end. Is that what you're saying? Like if I as an author am not paying up front the same amount, but I say we're going to do, that profit sharing, there's pressure on you as the author to then invest in marketing instead to try and get those sales up to almost like pay off your audiobook person. Is that how I understand that?
So royalty share, you want to invest in marketing so that you earn money, because you're only being paid on that. And then paid per finished hour, you've paid your narrator the full rate for the audiobook, so you want to invest in marketing so that you're compensated, because once you've earned back what your narrator's earned, everything else is profit for you.
I see what you're saying. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So do you have any idea of what a typical audiobook will sell? Like how many copies it will sell? Or is there any
Is there a typical book?
Well,
I'll spend that. Is there a typical print book, and is there a typical sales?
we do in the print industry, we do have average sales. You're right, not typical, but it's average at least. Like the average printed book will sell about 2,500 copies in its lifetime. So I don't know how audiobooks stack up, if you've seen any numbers on it.
I haven't seen average numbers on that. I know that I keep a spreadsheet for all the books that I've sold, and it varies widely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of it from the author point of view of, okay, well, this is a totally different medium, which is much more expensive than ebooks. So if they're trying to, crunch the numbers and, well, how many do I think I'm going to sell versus how much is it going to cost? Because I'm gathering that to make an audiobook, we're talking like, well, it depends on how you do it. Let's say if you just pay for finished hour, we're talking probably a few $1,000s, I would think.
Correct.
Which is fair. I mean, editing of a print book costs the same sort of amount, so it's not an unreasonable amount of money for an author to invest. But it is a different medium that they're creating. Whereas an ebook is great in that sense that it's basically you create your print book, pay another $150, and you have an ebook. Like it really is a nice little value add. So I'm just thinking through the next medium and how authors can approach this
So
because.
let me say that people are going to consume you however they consume. So if
Hmm.
you have an audiobook listener and you don't have that available, they won't know who you are.
Hmm.
So if they read ebooks, if everyone's going to look for you in the way that they like to consume. So you're missing out on part of the market by not having an audiobook.
Yep, and this
I
is
agree.
leads to another question that I had because I remember 25 years ago, audiobooks were basically a dead medium. Because you still had to buy them on tapes, maybe you could get them on a CD, but they really were dying and they were almost a joke. But that's all changed in the last 10, 15 years. And I get the feeling that audiobooks really are on the rise. Do you have any sort of stats or numbers or anecdotes about how audiobooks have risen?
I've seen the stats year over year over year, and yes, they continue to outdo last year's sales numbers.
Yeah, yeah. And how do they compare these days to print and ebooks?
I just see audiobook stats. I don't
Oh,
see the cross industry stats. So sorry.
no, it's all
I
right.
wish I could answer that, but I don't have the information.
Progressively up rates, it either
Yeah.
means people are ingesting books through audio more than print, or just more people are, finding books, period. I think that's just a good thing to recognize. I think in a way, like for authors who are able to, if they can create an audiobook as just one of the tools in their toolbox for each of their books or their series or whatever, I think what we're saying and what we're seeing and what we're talking about is like it's worth it. Um and I think people get nervous because they don't even know. I mean, I would love to like pull back even from this larger, marketing and money conversation, be like, okay, so let's say I'm an author and I have a book and I want it to be an audiobook. What do I do? Like I know, but like, can we talk about it for our listeners who have maybe never submitted to a narrator or a voice artist or any of that? Like, what am I doing? Do I have to send a teleplay? Do I have to send do I send you the manuscript? What's the process to getting that audiobook even made?
So I think this is an interesting question. I mean, you don't have to have anything more than you already have. You have the book. You've spent a ton of time and energy and love putting that together. This is the hard thing, though. The only other artist you've worked with is a cover artist. So now you're partnering with a different artist. And this is a much more extensive journey. Um, so you need to find someone who is the voice of your brand or is the voice of your series. And what does that mean? Is that, if you think about the James Bond series and 007 and how many different actors portrayed that one character, none of them, each of them brought their own take on that character, right? And so that's like an audiobook narrator. We're each going to have our own take on your work. And you need to find someone whose take really resonates with you or where you're aligned, definitely a fan of your work. Someone who's like, oh, I love it. I just love, love, love this series. Um, so that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone you can partner with who maybe your aesthetics are to come together. They're doing all the right things. They have the character voices and the correct pacing, and they know what they're doing with all of that. But they have the same passion for your work. And it might sound differently than it does in your head. And that's something you have to grapple with as an author, because I might make different choices than the author made. What do you do with that? But you audition the narrator. You send them, you select a narrator, you send them the manuscript so we can get the entire picture of the book. And then there should be they should send you a small selection, maybe a chapter or 15 minutes. And that's the time to go back and forth and talk about pacing, talk about particular character voices. And once you sign off on that and you come to an agreement, then the narrator is supposed to continue in the same vein for the rest of the book. And we have our artistic license to add shine and sparkle to your words.
Yeah, I remember when my Space Pirates series were made into an audiobook, and this was through HarperCollins, so they did most of the work for me. But yes, I was allowed to they gave me like 3 or 4 narrators who I could listen to, and I chose one. And it was neat to see what he did. He used his voice for all of the characters, but he managed to bring a certain quality to each time there was dialogue, that you could tell it was a different person. Even though he didn't use accents, he didn't change his voice. There was just something about it that he did that you could tell whether it was a male or a female speaking, or a high class or low class person speaking. And it was very clever. So I guess I'm just saying, yes, all that. I agree. It's amazing. It's a different artist and a different medium that they are the expert in, and it's really cool to see how it can come together. So there's a lot to soak in here for an aspiring author who's thinking about doing this, because it is a totally different medium, which we as the writers are not experts in.
Well, I think this is like what I said earlier, where this is kind of the bridge between books and movies in a way. Because, like, when you're a writer and you've written a book or you've written a script, and then you give it to other people to put the voice to the words, it's transcendent in a way, because you're like, oh, they're putting inflection where I wasn't planning in my head to put inflection, like you said, Sandra, or they're putting emphasis where I guess it makes sense, but I never thought of that. Or it doesn't sound at all like what I was thinking it would sound like, but it still works. And I think that's that whole collaborative, leave your ego at the door. Like, you can't micromanage an audiobook production. And I think that's something I want everybody who's listening to this to take away. Just like, you can't do that, because I think it will not make it fail, but it will not be the best it can be if you're micromanaging.
Yeah, I agree. There should be a relationship and a trust that you have with your narrator before before they go and record the entire book. You should be comfortable. I want all the authors I worked with to be comfortable. You've heard the 15 minutes. Let's talk through your top 5 characters. Let's share inspiration. Whether you work off of spreadsheets or Pinterest boards or photos, can I see what you worked off of? Because then we're working off the same place. And it feels very authentic to me to, work off the same picture. Now, I might not come up with the voice you had in your head, but I was inspired by the same picture.
Yeah, I can see how the way you interpret a particular line or passage, could go a bunch of different ways. Is there any, especially for a self-published author who's working directly with you, is there the chance for them to come back and say, okay, love what you did, but this particular passage, you put the emphasis on the wrong word and it completely changes the meaning of what I wanted. Can we fix that? Like, can you make that kind of change afterwards, or is it very difficult?
Yes, you can make that kind of change afterward, but if I put the emphasis in the wrong place, that's a mistake. I will fix all mistakes. So if you find any mistakes in my work, if I added to that, if I took out of that, if I had my emphasis in the wrong place, which changed the meaning of the sentence, then those are all fixed.
Okay.
Those should be all fixed by your narrator.
I was
Any
wondering.
type of error should be fixed. But
Yeah.
come back and, I don't like how you did this character voice. Yeah, there's an extra price for that.
Yeah, no,
that's a lot more work.
Yeah, no, definitely understand the difference.
Yeah, I think that's good to know, because I think a lot of people aren't sure what is editable and what's not. I mean, that's huge when it comes to audiobooks, because unless you have been on the radio production side, you don't know what even the capabilities are on your end on what's possible to splice in or not. I mean, some things are easier, some things are harder. Like you said, the entire voice of one character, that's a no-go. Or, well, it's doable, but it's more expensive. And I mean, are there things that or is this more of a, you're working with a professional if they're willing to go back and make changes or mistakes, and if they're like, no, I said it that way, deal with it, or it's an extra $1,000. Like, is that a way to kind of almost sort through who's professional or not? Like, I don't know.
So any professional I know will fix a mistake. Now, there shouldn't be a mistake because we hired a proofer, but you know how that goes, right? Um, any professional I know will fix a mistake. Anything beyond the mistake, that's a conversation. So are you part of a 10-book series I've done and you want something small fixed? Sure, I got you. But like, first time to be author and you want like the whole character voice redone and they appear in every chapter, that's going to take, I won't be able to do another book because I have to spend so much time doing the voice and editing. It's extraordinarily more time consuming to edit something pre-existing than to freshly record it.
In a situation like that, would you just re-record the whole book then?
Do I get paid a second time?
Well, is that what it takes? I just want people to know, like, if you come in with like some exorbitant ask that requires so much editing, essentially you just, okay, great, but you're paying for a second book because
Or you're paying for something. You know,
Okay.
their time and it's time and energy to do that. I think the better way to do it is to really be on the same page before you get going. And that's, I think, that's why I ask for Pinterest, whatever inspired you to create this character. Can we get on the same page? Can we, for independently published authors, can we hop on a Zoom call and talk through your top 5 characters? Can I give you their voices? Like, let's get on the same page. And so then from there, there's usually no problem because, I want the authors to relax and know that you're in good hands. I'm going to take it in my artistic direction, but my whole goal and the goal of any audiobook narrator is to honor your words and to honor your intent. That is my goal as an artist, is to honor your intent. So I want to know what that is as much as I can. And then my job is to honor it and to tell a story.
Well, that's great to hear. I know that a lot of first-time authors are really, really nervous handing their material over to anyone else. Like, I have the same problem as an editor all the time. If I make any suggested changes as an editor, and some authors are very, very possessive of what they wrote and have to explain, no, I am making your words come out more clearly. It's great, Sandra, to hear that from you as the narrator. It's the same thing. We're just it's still your words. We're just bringing them to life in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for some authors to hear that before they undertake this great adventure.
It is a great adventure because you get to hear things in a whole different way. Maybe it brings a different side of a character to you. One of the authors I work with say that my voice lives in her head, has all the different characters. And she's like, I never thought of the character that way. I'm going to write him, a little bit different now.
Awesome.
No, but I do think that's one thing that I, have enjoyed working with you. And I mean, in my previous life, I'd worked as a radio and TV producer. So I worked with a lot of voices, people I never met or saw face to face or, didn't meet in an elevator, so I never knew what they looked like. I never had a relationship the same way. But for me, it was so impressive because you went above and beyond. You went and you talked to people who were native speakers of the different language and you got the accents down. And I think like these are things, if people are looking at, oh, I want to get an audiobook done, I think there's a way to do it inexpensively, but then there's also a reason to invest just a little bit in working with a professional just because you're going to get a better product, I think. And I think that that's just kind of the cost of doing business that people who aren't sure need to be aware of. Like you can hack it up, and do all of that, but it's not guaranteed to give you the quality maybe that you're used to hearing. So that's just something to be aware of going forward.
You've sent me to very interesting places, Sara. I have my Polish source. So, friend of the family, he supplies all my Polish. Very kind to do that. And then I had to find someone to help me with the Celtic. And so I contacted like the Colorado Celtic Society and, said, I will make a donation to your charity And I found this really great guy, and he's like, yeah, I'm down for that. So I've made some really interesting connections just trying to get connected so I'm saying things appropriately. Yeah.
But I wanted to mention that because I think like that's stuff for people to be aware of. Like if they're interviewing an audiobook artist, or voice actor, like ask them what do they do. If you have, characters who need a little extra pizzazz, well, what do they do? How do they handle that? And I think that that's just another aspect, especially since you're only hearing, you're not
Yes.
reading. So, what is possible and what should they be asking for when they're interviewing potential artists?
Yeah,
So,
Sandy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
so if the question is what they should be asking, I think, um, you know, it depends on what the audiobook narrator knows about your work. So if I've only seen a scene, I can, I can give you that. But if I've read the whole book, then we can have an entirely different conversation. Um, definitely I would look at your narrators on social media. Is this something they do for a living? Listen to their samples. What kind of work do they do? Doesn't mean they can't do a genre that they don't have listed, but what do you like about that particular narrator? And then you can just have a conversation. Once they've read your work, you'll know if you're aligned or not.
Do you find that narrators sort of move into doing certain genres, or so if I'm looking for someone who writes who narrates sci-fi, I should go with that, or do you find that you work across all different genres?
Interesting question. I work across all genres, and most of us do, but we find ones that we gravitate to.
Mm.
Um, I love mystery, thriller, cozy mystery. I love dead bodies in any form. Um, so, but I also belong to like my local Sisters in Crime Colorado chapter. So I know a lot of those authors, and I enjoy learning about how to craft a mystery. I think it's an interesting process. But yet, Sara has given me a love for historical fiction that now I cannot go into a mountain town and not read every sign in town and think about these people and what happened to them and what could the story be. So, and I love nonfiction too. So I think when you love to read all genres. I don't think anyone just reads one genre. You might have one you're more prone to. Then I have the issue of where your voice is. So I don't have a voice for middle grade. That's a higher pitched voice. That's a younger sounding voice. My voice naturally fits in a different place.
Yeah. Do you find, are there any genres that are more likely to be narrated by men or women?
The rule of thumb is if your main protagonist is male, you hire a male narrator. If your main
Mm.
protagonist is female, you hire a female.
And if you have both?
Then it's your call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating stuff.
Mhm.
It's just
It
curious
really is. It really
how
is. Yeah.
yeah, wow. It's a whole new world. I mean, it's not that I don't have audiobooks. Like I have, but I guess just I was never involved in the nuts and bolts of making them. I had the distinct pleasure of sitting there going, oh yes, 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 that one. Splendid. Yes, this is how you pronounce that word. Off you go. So for someone who's actually going to be much more involved, it's great to hear from an expert who's on the other side and what people can expect when they get around to making their audiobook.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, is there anything we haven't, I mean, this is the broad strokes. We've never, and we've been on the air for like a lot of episodes now, and it's like, well, did we forget to ask any like big basic stop sign questions about audiobooks that you think like the average author probably should know? Like, what did we forget?
You didn't forget anything, but I would encourage an author who hasn't yet done an audiobook to listen to audiobooks in your genre. Know what that sounds like. Just listen to audiobooks. And then you'll have a little bit better idea of what you're looking for. And you'll know what's what a standard cozy mystery sounds like versus a thriller. They're very different. What the tone of it should sound like.
That's great advice. Very
Yeah.
good. Very good. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Before we forget, is there anywhere people can go to find you? Like if they're like, we want Sandra to do all of our audiobooks now, is there website, social media? Where should we send people to find more about you?
Great. My website is voicemama.com.
Nice.
So
There it
you head to
is.
Voice Mama and she'll take care of you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. I think that's our show for today then. And I just want to remind all of our listeners to not forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our chats with Ben and I or any of our wonderful guests. And please remember to leave us a review, which really helps us. And you can find Ben also at ben@rcoles.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram.
And you can catch up with Sara at saradahman.com and on Instagram. Thanks for joining us today. Please reach out if there are any topics you'd like us to cover. And we'll see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sara.